thought today I would spend a little time talking about some historical romances that are on my TBR. So I haven't talked about historical romances on my channel for what feels like such a long time. I think it actually has been quite a long time, and I haven't read one in a hot minute either. So I thought this would just motivate me to get in the mood for some historical romances, because even if I haven't read one in a while, it is still like my top 3 favorite genres, being fantasy, historical romance, and I don't know, other romances. Anyway, let's just get into the books. First on my list, Romancing the Duke by Tessa Dare. This cover is really interesting because I feel like, one, I've seen this book with the font in white, and 2, the font should be white because the black is so hard to read, but that's beside the point. I love Tessa Dare. I've read a couple of her books before, and I definitely want to read more of them. If you by chance have not read historical romance but you're interested in reading historical romance, she is the author I would recommend to start with. She has a very approachable writing style that I just think is so like easy to fall into. It feels like you're reading a contemporary but you're actually reading a historical, and so I just really love her. But this book follows, what is her name? I don't know how to say that. Isolde, but she goes by Izzy, thank God. How would you say that name? Isolde? That's not important, but she is the daughter of a famous author who wrote romance books, at least 1800s versions of those. Oh, look how big the font is. I should read this like ASAP. Anyway, but she always assumed that she would have a grand romance because that's the story she grew up reading, and now she's 26 and none of the fairy tales have come true. So she's, you know, at this point considered kind of a spinster vibe, and it's about her finding her romance. I don't know anything about who the hero is in this story, but I'm sure it would be good. And then this is part of the Castles Ever After series. This is the first in the series though. So I don't know if these are maybe retellings, just because Castles Ever After kind of sounds like a retelling, but I'm not sure. And this doesn't really sound, I guess, like a retelling, but either way, I'm really excited to pick this one up, and I think this is probably at the top of my TBR because, like I said, it's been so long since I've read a historical, so I feel like I should go back in with someone I guarantee that I will really love. So next, I have a couple of her books on this list, but The Perks of Loving a Wallflower by Erica Ridley. Back in the day when this came out, this one was sent to me by the author, and I am so excited to read this. Should I have read it a long time ago when the author sent it to me? Yes, but you know how I am. But this is the second book in the Duke Heist series, and it is one of the only books I have in this awkward, like larger mass market paperback size, and it's so silly because I have another book by her here and it's smaller. Anyway, this is a sapphic historical romance, which is not something I see very often, and there should be more of them because 2 princesses, how fun is that? But this follows Thomasina, who is a character we do meet in the first one, who is their very interesting sibling. That's like, this is a found family trope story, so they say they're siblings, and she like dresses up in a bunch of different kind of characters to help with the crime of the family, and she falls for Blue Stocking, one of my favorite tropes, which just means like a really smart woman, basically, in a historical setting. It's Philippa York, who we also meet in the first one, and she was betrothed to a duke, and then things happened in the first one, blah blah blah, but she meets Tommy, and I am so excited to see what romance ensues between them, because in the first one, Philippa is a very like proper young lady, and Tommy is not. So I'm very excited to see how that dynamic unfolds, because I just feel like they would not start off as enemies, but definitely like bicker and stuff, and I think it'll be really cute. I'm so excited. And when I read this one, the first one in the series, I had so much fun. Her writing is just so funny, so I'm very excited to pick this up. Next, another author that I love. All the authors on this list are ones that I like already love. That is Waiting for a Scot Like You by Eva Leigh. Eva Leigh, I don't know how to say her name. This is the next book, right? Next book in the series. Is it? Am I making that up? I don't know. I believe, yeah, The Union of the Rakes. So I've read My Fake Rake and I've read When I Lied to the Duke. This is, I believe, the third and final one. And it is about a Major Duncan McCameron, who if I'm remembering right, you do meet in the other books, because it's like the three friends that went to school together, if I'm remembering right. But he is hired to escort a widow across the country, and she is a lot more feisty than he's expecting. She is newly widowed, but she kind of wanted to be freed from the marriage, and she wants to just gallivant across the country like with this newfound freedom, because as a woman she'll have so much more freedom as a widow than she ever did as a married woman or an unmarried woman. And instead she gets to travel across the country with this like really strict Scottish warrior. So I'm sure it'll be great. I'm sure it'll be so much fun. Eva Leigh has this just such charm in her stories. I really, really enjoy them. So I'm very excited to give this one a try, and finish out the series, because have I ever finished out a series? Not really. Let's talk about another Erica Ridley book. So this is the third one following the princess one, or whatever this one's called. Perks of Loving a Wallflower. Where did I get the word princess? In here. Nobody's Princess by Erica Ridley. I love this cover. It's so pink and just beautiful. I love it. So this one is about the hero, who is some sort of spy type person. He collects intelligence. That sounds like a spy to me. And he thinks he intercepts a message in the newspaper that there's like a threat to the royal family, but it's actually this gal, and she needs help because she wants to become the country's first royal guards woman. So already iconic for both of them. So excited to see how this plays out. I'm sure that they will find themselves in a lot of interesting situations, since there's kind of like spies and intrigue and stuff. I don't know if this is a part of that other series now that yeah, it is, because Winchester. So this is another one of the siblings, because it's the Winchester family. And I think they will come into a lot of interesting situations because of the spies and everything. I got sidetracked there for a second, but I'm so excited. I think this will be a really fun book. I will say my one complaint is look how small this font is. What's that about? Take notes from Tessa Dare. Okay, next, let's do my two Joanna Shupe books, because if you've never watched a historical romance video by me, you should know that Joanna Shupe is my favorite historical romance author. I love her more than anything. I've read not all of her books, but a lot of her books. There's 5 I've left that I think. So our first series I haven't read, and then the ones I have in front of me here I think are the only ones I have left to read. I could be wrong about that. So this is The Heiress Hunt. This is a book about that takes place in New York. Most of her books do, at least recently, in like the early 1900s. And this is about a man who needs to find a match because his family is bankrupt, and so he needs to get married and take her dowry and like rebuild his family name. And so he turns to his childhood best friend, who he wishes he could marry because he's in love with her, because friends to lovers, my favorite trope, but she's engaged to someone else, but he's gonna have her help him find a proper wife, and I think we all know where that's going. So I am so excited. Literally no one writes historical romances better than Joanna Shupe. Also, this cover, here for it, love it. I love a historical romance cover so much, although none of these books have step backs, unfortunately. But either way, they have to embark on this journey together of finding him a fiance, and I think in that process she will leave the Duke she's engaged to marry him. So I'm so excited. Childhood friends to lovers, you cannot get better than that. I can't wait to read this. And then my other dropping books all over the place. My other Joanna Shupe on my list is The Bride Goes Rogue. This is part of the Fifth Avenue Rebels, which I believe this is as well. These are part of the same series. I couldn't tell you which one was first. I think this one, but either way. This is a book about a rich tycoon, and his father had set up this engagement. This also takes place in New York, I'm pretty sure. If that one did, yes. So his father sets up an engagement with this girl, and then they never really talk about it. And she's like, no one's ever really confronted me about the fact that I'm technically engaged. So I'm just gonna ignore that. I'm never gonna marry him anyway. And so she goes to just live her life. She's living her best life in New York City, and then they meet each other in a club, and they realize who they are, and they realize maybe we don't hate this idea. So that's their romance. And now they have to kind of decide, is it worth still fighting the engagement how they always have wanted to, or do they love each other? So I'm so excited. I feel like I'm doing a terrible job at explaining what these books are about, but that's just on brand for me. Lastly, another favorite author of mine is Linda Lale Miller. So this is Shotgun Bride. This is the second book, I believe, in the McTerrick, how would you say that name? McTerrick? How is that last name pronounced? Oh my god. Anyway, it's a historical Western, and I have read the books in her other series that are historical Western. This, I believe, is a separate one. And this is actually the second book, and I've heard a lot saying the first one's not very good, and historicals, you can read them out of order. So I was just gonna read this one. But I don't know what it is, but historical romance Westerns are such an appreciated subgenre of historical romance. They're so good, especially Linda Lale Miller. Although if you know of any other ones, let me know, because she's only one of the only ones I've ever really found that writes historicals that take place in the Wild West. I love it so much. I don't know what it is. There's just this magical, nostalgic feeling that comes over me. I don't know if it's because I live in the West and I'm just thinking, what if I was here 200 years ago? Probably not this, but I'd like to think that this was it. Not that I would just die of tuberculosis. But this is about Cade. And apparently he's gotten 5 mail-order brides to be at the local hotel, all of them eager to brave the frontier and provide the air that the ranch needs. But now he is, I don't even know. I didn't read this summary. I just thought I would know what it was about. He is distracted by a pretty Sister Mandy, whose claim to be a nun is obviously false. We've also got a fake nun. That's fantastic. I'm convinced. I also need more nun romances, which sounds weird, but it's Call a Midwife. You can't blame me. So now the two of them, fake nun and cowboy, are dealing with the troublesome outlaw gang, and it's somewhere in that process they fall in love. So I'm sold. That's all I need. I just need to know it's Linda Lale Miller, and I'm sold. But yeah, those are some historical romances I want to read soon. I think this was a really long video, but I love talking historicals. It's my favorite genre, in case I haven't mentioned. So if you've never given historical romance a try, I beg of you to give it a try. Especially start with Tessa Dare, and you will fall in love. Joanna Shupe, I also think you could start with. Any of her ones that take place in New York, especially. Or my favorite book by her is, oh my god, what's it called? Notorious Vow is my favorite one. I could think of the cover, but not the name. But yeah, really, historicals are just amazing, and I cannot wait to read all of these. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got some more bookish content on the way at some point. I hope you enjoyed. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.